Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for education purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho the four victims. May they rest in peace. Condolence to the families, and may the correct justice be served. I played this interview 9 months ago or a year ago. This interview is from JLR Investigates. Shout out to him. I always appreciate the people who try doing interviews and were boots on the ground at the beginning of the case. We all have discussed about how come no ambulance was seen in front of 1122 Kings Road. And I've mentioned this many times before. According to this young man called Canaan, he's one of the neighbors to 1122 Kings Road. He saw ambulances with S, and police cars from his window. Watch this original interview from JLR Investigators channel. He did a brilliant job. Like, share, and subscribe to his channel. I appreciate him for the two interviews I'm going to be playing. I want to put in my reaction. That's the reason. It's for fair use purpose. Pay close attention to what is being said.
Doing all right, I guess.
So tell me what's going on. You are a neighbor of where these stabbings happened.
Yeah, I live like right around the corner, I guess. I can see the building where it happened from my driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the like cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of like what was even going on.
Yeah.
But besides that, I hadn't, like the night before, I hadn't seen anything. I already had two detectives come to my place and ask me as well if I had seen anything unusual or anything like that.
When they came to your place, what do you mean, your home or your work?
My home.
Okay. Did you see police go to other neighbors' homes? Were they going from door to door?
Yeah, it looked like they were going door to door. They knocked on my door. They knocked on the apartment right next to my door. But the girls that live in the apartment next to me haven't been home since like this happened. They'll swing by for a few minutes to grab stuff, but they haven't been home. So I've kind of been wondering, like, if everybody in the neighborhood is just kind of like left due to the fact of nobody feels safe, and I don't have that option.
Yeah.
So there were ambulances in front of 1122 Kings Road. He said on the 13th of November, that was a Sunday, at noon. I wonder if it was the ambulances that took the students, because let's not forget, besides the people who knew about this and were keeping their mouths shut, like the neighbors, just in case, just organizations and other things involved, everyone would have been at home pretending they did not know anything at noon, 11:58. But we know Katie's friend knew about it before 10 a.m. That's what she told ABC News. So Canaan, the neighbor, says ambulances were there. So for all the speculations of how the bodies were taken out, may they rest in peace, I believe it was done quietly at 12 at noon, because the ambulances were there. That's when the police came, so the police must have come in with ambulances, because obviously if there was one ambulance, Kanan would have said that.
Sunday, right around the corner, I guess. I can see the building where it happened from my driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the like cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of like what was even going on.
Yeah.
But besides that, I hadn't, like the night before, I hadn't seen anything. I already had 2 detectives come to my place and ask me as well if I had seen anything unusual or anything like that.
When they came to your place, what do you mean, your home or your work?
My home.
Okay.
I live like right around the corner, I guess. I can see the building where it happened from my driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the like cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of like what was even going on. Just kind of like left due to the fact of nobody feels safe, and I don't have that option.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that, but for like when the police came, like what were they asking you? Like were they asking you about surveillance? Where were you at? Like what kind of questions were they asking?
Yeah, they asked me. I'm going to guess the standard routine questions when they're canvassing the neighborhood. They started off saying that they were canvassing the neighborhood and asking everybody that lived in the area if they'd seen anything unusual, heard anything that night. They did ask me like what I was doing that night, which I was at home with my girlfriend at the time, and we were in bed when the around the time that the murders had happened.
Yeah.
They asked me if I could hear cars driving by from inside of my apartment, which unfortunately most of my apartment's underground, so I can't hear much that goes on outside of it.
Why were the police so interested in only the cars driving outside that night? Why weren't they interested about the people walking around that night? This crime could have easily been done by foot. We saw 4 figures running from King's Road to the Sigma Chi. They came on the main news channel too. There was actually more going on foot. Whether it was a coincidence or not, we had the Banfield alcohol body cam stop. That's how the 4 figures came on the body cam, running from King's Road to Sigma Chi. That was right after Kaylee and Maddie, 15 or 16 minutes after they made the last calls to Jack D. Right after they made the calls to Jack D at 2:52 a.m., at 2:54 a.m., we hear from the police's body cam a female yelling, "Stop it, stop." I believe it was Maddie or Kaylee. May they rest in peace. Because the couple, we could hear the couple at the grub truck, people were yelling out Xana and E's name. Something happened to them between 2 to 2:25, I believe. I've always said that. If you look at the timelines, if the timelines wasn't changed, everything happened, I believe, before 4 a.m. Maddie and Kaylee did not come home before 1:56. and nobody saw the couple coming home. They could have been at home because Xana's father said he spoke to her last at 12 midnight. Why wasn't the FBI called until 5 days later? The vandals alert was put out at 3 in the afternoon. So were they taking the bodies out of the crime scene without the coroner being there? Something doesn't make sense. Is it because we were asking too many questions that they put the case on gag order? What was Brian Kroberger doing driving there? Jack D has a white Elantra 2011 to 2013 model, the one they were actually searching for. All this can't be a coincidence. He would have had more motive. Like the mayor said, a crime of passion. Hoodie guy is finally showing his true colors, disturbing the neighborhood, disturbing the peace. He got arrested recently, comes from a privileged family, from Boise. DM, Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, and Jack Showalter went to the same high school. All this is relevant in Boise. Many people know each other here. Let's continue with this interview. This is for your reaction only, fair use purpose. Thank you. JLR investigates.
Outside of it, I had told them that usually on weekends, that entire neighborhood, the King Road and Queens Road area, is just big party central. I mean, I can hear the music from inside, but other than that, I wasn't hearing anything. Yeah.
Is that on a regular occurrence? Like, does that happen regularly?
Yeah, it was usually every weekend that there were parties. Since it's happened, there haven't been any parties for obvious reasons.
Yeah, where were they partying? At that house, or other houses there, or that house particular, or the whole?
I wasn't exactly sure what houses exactly. There's a large apartment complex that goes along the main road right there.
Yeah.
That I've seen a lot of parties at, and I know up King Road there's a couple of different buildings that party, but I haven't gone walking around and seen exactly what houses were partying.
Yeah. Have you ever met these any of the occupants of that?
So there was parties going on around that area every weekend, and I believe weekdays too. We've seen the police coming because of all the noise complaints, the loud music. We've seen Emma Belly in that house too. There was a lot of activities going on in that house because the cab driver, not the one who drove the girls home, but the other cab driver who spoke to Idaho local news, said that people used to go there to buy rugs there. What was actually going on in the house? I'm not saying the victims are up to something. What about the surviving roommates? Why did it take them 8 hours to call the police? To call 911? Or actually to call, let me correct myself, Hunter Johnson first. Even if you're shocked, wouldn't you call the police first? Because 4 of your roommates have been deleted. May they rest in peace. If you got up to a terrible scene, you'd have called the police first for your own safety. No matter how shocked you are, because 8 hours passed. Was this an inside job? Is Kane now trying to tell us that he really did not hear anything? Obviously, he's not going to interfere because he's on parole. He has to be home by 10. And if he tells the police what he saw, he'll be making enemies, I believe. What we heard on the Linda Lane tapes, if those were true, it seemed like the neighborhood was hearing everything that was going on, allegedly.
I think it's Sigma Chi.
I think so.
Now, from that fraternity, have you ever seen like people walking from King Street to that fraternity, like back and forth, like through the grass there, or
Yes, that is something for like the parties that I've seen a lot of, like the frats and the sororities along there. They would walk down that hill, across the grass, and then go to either the King Road area or the main road there and go to the parties. Because I know that U of I is a dry campus, so that's like right off of the campus grounds, so they're able to drink and party, and it's always been since U of I became a dry college. That's always been like a party central.
When did they become a dry college?
I'd guess probably about 6 to 10 years ago. I honestly wouldn't know.
So I'm assuming it's a thing with all the university students to get housing there, or that's the spot to party.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Do people like park on the street there from the frat houses? Is there cars? Do you ever see like cars fill the streets there?
Yeah, like Halloween night, there was tons of vehicles parked all on up and down our road, going to those parties.
Is that that's Taylor or King, or what road is that? Taylor, right?
I think it's Taylor, the main one that like King branches off onto, and then it goes up and turns into Walenta, which is where I live, around that corner.
So
now pay attention to the next answer Kanan gives. He says, I believe, sounds like Saturday night, there was tons of cars parked in front of Sigma Chi. There was a party.
As far as I know.
Do people like park on the street there from the frat houses? Is there cars? Do you ever see like cars fill the streets there?
Yeah, like Halloween night, there was tons of vehicles parked all on up and down our road, going to those parties.
Is that that's Taylor or King, or what road is that? Taylor, right?
I think it's Taylor, the main one that like King branches off onto, and then it goes up and turns into Walenta, which is where I live, around that corner.
So basically, is all the neighbors around there right now are just scared? I know you told me that in email that you're scared, fearing that there's a killer on the loose or killers.
Yeah, and like that's something that Moscow's never really had. I mean, we've had a couple of homicides or murders in town, but nothing like this before, especially with not having an answer within a few days. Like the last one we had was some guy shot up Arby's in a real estate place like years ago. I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago now.
I believe it's 2015 was the last homicide. I believe that's what they were saying.
Oh, wow. So I guess it's been a little longer.
If that's the same one, I don't know.
Yeah. And then the one before that, I was young when it happened, so I don't even know the year that one happened. So this isn't very common for this area, and it's quite alarming and concerning that, the police haven't really had any form of information or nothing new for us to go on. And
does that frustrate you? Does that what's your thoughts about that? Lack of information.
Sorry, what was that?
Lack of information, lack of updates.
Yeah, just more along the lines of just lack of information that they're sharing. Because like when they first came out and did that first press conference and said that, oh, this is an isolated attack, there's nothing to worry about. I just was like, I don't believe that. And the guys here, I work at Napa Auto Parts, and we all have been, trying to see what the news says or if there's any new information. And the lack of information is something that's kind of frustrating, especially being I live alone, so it's kind of, I don't know, worrisome. And I mean, as I'm sure you know, my address is a public information.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I did want to ask you, and I'm definitely objective here. I'm not going to judge you or anything like that, and I know that you are a registered SO, and that's why I asked you when I was emailed, like, did they come to you just because of your past, just to question you?
No, they actually, when the detectives came to my door, they actually didn't even know anything about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had told them, I was like, I do have a 10 o'clock curfew every night due to the fact that I am on felony probation. They asked me why I was on probation, and when I told them what my crime was, they were like, oh, okay, like it wasn't nothing big, wasn't anything to look into type thing.
Wow. I appreciate Kenan for being a strong young man and talking to the cops and giving information to JLR investigate. But I find it shocking and baffling that the police did not know who was on parole, who was on bail, who has had convictions before they even knocked at the door. This young man had to tell the police that he's been convicted of SO and that he has to be home at 10 a.m. So aren't they supposed to be doing their homework before they come knocking down doors? Because valuable time is going. There's allegedly a mass murder on the loose. That was before they arrested Brian Christopher Koberger, whether he's guilty or innocent. I just find that so unprofessional, in my opinion. Why didn't they call the FBI for 5 straight days? This happened on the 13th. DM took 8 hours to call Hunter Johnson, who then called 911, who then called the police. And K9 is saying there was ambulances there, so I'm sure the ambulances took the bodies before the coroner even came there. This has always made sense to me in this manner, because the neighbors know best. This was before the neighbors stopped talking. So JLR was lucky to do these good interviews.
Stoplights are.
But that's really like because I did like a Google map and I saw at the end of Taylor was like a gas station there, like a gas station and Main Street. And I saw that the gas station had like surveillance there. And I'm just wondering, like, there's only a few ways to get to that King Street address, correct?
Correct.
And you would think that, if someone came in with, a car or vehicle, whether they came in or out, they would be seen on some surveillance somewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that like the U of I also has some like street cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, the only way that might not have cameras would be up over the hill that goes like up to the Kitty Dome and to the other side of town.
Yeah. Now,
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but besides that, I know that the gas station does have exterior cameras, and the street light right there where Pizza Hut's at does have street cameras.
The white car that was captured by the gas station could have easily been Jack D's car. He had a white Hyundai Elantra, 2011 to 2013 model. Allegedly, in my opinion, we had Brent Kopacko, may he rest in peace, who had a silver Hyundai Elantra, 2013 model, 11 to 13. And then we have BK, who's driving a 2016. I remember the owner of Linda Lane, the landlord, said that the camera showed a light color car. She didn't say a white color car. That was said in the beginning of the case. It's going to be interesting when it comes in front of the court. So I wonder if the 4 victims were moved before the coroner even got there. Why did it take 8 hours for the surviving roommates to call the police? Were they involved? Did they let people in? Is that maybe why allegedly Xana wanted to change her locks, maybe to a code lock? Because one of the rooms did not have a code lock on the second floor. So it was either the room DM was saying later she was sleeping in, or it was Xana's room. Maybe that's what her father fixed. Why aren't the police changing the timeline? Kaylee and Maddie came home at 1:56, not at 1:45. And the couple, nobody knows when they came home. Is that what they're trying to cover up? Allegedly. This trial can easily go in a mistrial. Very easily. There has to be a reason that Brian Christopher Koberger is not taking any plea deal. Maybe he really didn't do it. Who knows? Maybe he was involved to a mild form only. Maybe it's just a people who was roaming around for the 12th time or 13th time. Or maybe knew somebody in the area. There's so many people at the crime scene before the police even got there. Anyone could have planted the DNA of the knife sheath there. These are students. Some of them must be definitely learning about forensics and know how to use a lab and know a bit about DNA. It is possible, allegedly. This is all just my opinion.
Prior to the stabbings, have you ever seen police around there for calls of like fights or disturbances or anything like that?
Probably like a noise disturbance. I've seen cops there a handful of times, just because of noise is too loud, music's too loud, people are drunk, handful of times, just because of noise is too loud, music's too loud, people are drunk, stuff like that.
When's the last time you saw that?
Probably a couple weeks before the murder happened.
Oh, really? So the police were called there, to that area?
Yeah, into the area. I don't know if it was the exact address that the murders took place, but I know that I'd seen, lights from a cop car down the street from me, but...
So has the area been quiet since the stabbings? Like, is there partying or anything? What's going on? What's the scene like now?
Right now, everything's been pretty quiet. The first week after it happened, we were having a ton of car traffic coming up the street, pulling into my driveway and turning back around to drive back down. I think people were just driving around to kind of see what happened, where it happened, and
a lot of times
as close as possible.
Yeah, a lot of times that's spectators or media, maybe, or just people that are just coming. Have you seen a lot of media there?
I see more media outside of the police station and at the U of I signs.
So what's your thoughts, like, if this doesn't get solved soon? Like, do you plan to move? Do you plan to stay there? Or are you just going to be, what's your next steps? Like, be extra vigilant, get some cameras, gun? What's gonna go on?
Well, unfortunately, with me being a felon, I can't own weaponry.
Yeah.
But that would be one of my next steps, is to have some form of, like, home defense due to the fact of this being, like, so close to me. I thought about trying to move, but moving in this day and age is kind of hard.
Yeah.
But I make sure that if I go outside, my lights are on. I don't leave my house past 10 o'clock anyways.
Yeah.
I always make sure my doors are locked, my car is locked. I'm taking extra precautions and being, like, more careful on locking things. But
scared and, don't know who's out there, what's out there, and what's going on, that's
yeah,
big.
It is. And what makes it a little more uncomfortable is we don't know why these people were murdered, like what caused the attack.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to bring my crime into this, but, like, I've always been kind of worried that I would be a target due to the fact that my stuff is already public.
Yeah.
And I just found out from my coworkers that one of the news stations had me and the 2 other sex offenders that live in the area plastered all over the news, and it's quite unnerving because, like, say if the killer is not just, picky on who he's murdering, or she is, or, whoever it is, what's to stop them from coming to my place, or my neighbors for that matter, or striking somewhere else in town? Because my dad, he lives all the way across town, but, like, I still worry about his safety. So, because I know attacks like this, yeah, it happened in my neighborhood, but it affects the entire town safety.
And not only that, and people might see your name plastered, or run your name and then just think, oh, he's a suspect. You did it because of your past, and then start sending police to your house, saying you got to question him, or you got to talk to him, something in that nature too. Do you fear that?
I do, and like when the detectives first showed up at my place, I was quite nervous that, like, I was already a suspect because of my crime, because of my history. And I was like, I was home, and, like, I had somebody over, so I know that, like, I'm good because I have a solid alibi and everything else. But it's the fact that people jump to conclusions, especially when in situations like this where there's not enough information given to the public, that the public starts turning on itself, trying to, weed out who the killer is. And the first people that are targeted are people with criminal history.
Yeah.
That is so true and so sad. That obviously happens, but then obviously law enforcement starts narrowing down the search, because he was convicted for SO or SA, sorry, offenses or assaults with the S, the beginning. So obviously they narrow it down, and when they found out that the 4 victims were not SA'd, thank God, then they search for other motives. And I don't believe it was a SK. I don't believe BK is a SK. This was a mass murder, but it wasn't a SK, because I believe if BK was a SK and he did this, he had another 7-8 weeks. He would have had the urge that he got away with it if he was like Ted Bundy. These 4 victims were handpicked, I believe. Different motives, different targets. The timelines were changed. The FBI wasn't called until 5 days later. The 2 surviving roommates did not call 911 for 8 hours, if not 9 hours, if you go back to the previous timeline. It's impossible, in my opinion, that DM opened the door 3 times, and guess what? Nothing happened. She saw a man with bushy eyebrows She wasn't scared. She heard somebody that sounded like Xana whimpering, and then she heard BK allegedly saying, "I'm here to help." She heard Kaylee upstairs saying, "There's somebody here." The dog was barking. DM didn't call the police. Was this an inside job? Just a question. Too much was going on. Just too much.
I get it. I totally get it. Do you know who owns that house by any chance? Have you ever seen the owner, the actual owner?
I do.
Who's the owner?
So my landlord is his daughter, but the landlord is Chuck. Oh crap! I can't remember his last name. I know his daughter is something Delphus is her last name.
Delphus. So they own a bunch of homes there?
I know she owns this one, and then Chuck, he is the landlord to several apartment complexes around the area.
Have you seen him come around? Have you seen any of them come around to see what's going on?
No. I saw Chuck, he came into my work the other day and made a comment about my upstairs neighbor saying that there had been a lot of car traffic the week after things had happened, and asked me if things had quieted down a little bit and whatnot. But other than that, he came by, I think, the week before to like clean our gutters and stuff. So
yeah.
So Chucky owns the victim's home in Kings Road, the house 1122 that was demolished, the houses nearby there, the flat this young man lives in is owned by Chucky's daughter. So the father and daughter own a lot of properties around there. And interestingly enough, Chucky was wondering if the noise upstairs, this young man's flat, was getting any lesser. So he does follow on his properties. I wonder how well he knew the 4 victims. Because there was a lot of noise going on in that house. It was a party venue. Why wasn't Chucky taking control and giving warnings? These were young tenants. Why wasn't the dean informed? The police were threatening Xana that they would tell the dean the next time they come and take her to court and give her a misdemeanor. Why didn't they do something about it? This could have all been prevented, in my opinion.
And trying to, just get a perspective of the neighbors, of how they feel, the situation. Anything else you want to add?
Just that I really hope that we start getting more information and they either find the person that's, guilty of this or something. And I also do find it kind of weird that there were 2 roommates in the house that were sleeping on the bottom floor when the murders took place. So it's like, what the hell's going on, guys?
So that does concern you, like 2 roommates that police have said most likely are not involved. You just find that odd.
Yeah, because in my opinion, like, stabbings are very personable. So it feels like the person that did it knows these people. I read somewhere that the victims had defensive wounds, which if that's the case, then that means there was a noise, there was a ruckus inside the building. So how do you go, like, if you're sleeping downstairs and people are rustling around up above you and getting killed, like, how do you not wake up to that?
I know. And I heard there was a dog. There was a dog in the house.
Oh, I did not know that yet.
You never saw a dog or any animals around there?
There's a bunch of college people that have animals that walk up and down. I just don't know, what house they belong to.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah. All right, well.
So it's interesting. Even Kanan is baffled and shocked that the surviving roommates were sleeping at the first floor in the beginning, and then they changed the alibi that DM was sleeping on the second floor. And he finds it strange that it took them 8 hours to call the police. Just like we find it weird, strange, baffling, and I wonder if it was an inside job. If they left the door open for some other people to come in, keep in mind, Bethany Funk, Dylan Mortensen, and Jack Showalter know each other. They went into the same high school in Boise, Idaho. And Quinn Kelly, DM's boyfriend. Let me know what you'll think. This was for fair use purpose. This was my reaction to this interview, which was an important interview. Thank you, Caden and JLR. It was an important interview. And to summarize it, ambulances came at noon. So that was when the police were called. Not ambulance, but ambulances. Listen to this interview from the beginning. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.